Welcome to the Build Business Acumen podcast, where we deliver practical knowledge and powerful guidance. Here is your futuristic host, Nathaniel Schooler.
Sam Morhaim has helped startups create and deploy ideas into reality, from web and mobile applications to Internet of Things and everything in between. His skills have been applied in many industries like healthcare, marketing automation, and financial technology for clients of all sizes, from startups to Fortune 500s. And this is a really, really interesting conversation that we have here. Well, it's really great to speak to you, Samuel. I'm quite interested to learn about what you've been up to after the amazing startups you've been involved with over the last few years.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, in business, obviously, I mean, I know we're gonna talk about digital transformation. We're gonna talk about startups, right? But also FTSE 500s and stuff, because I know you've been involved in quite a bit of technology within those as well. But best place to start is probably resilience at work, because to building any business or even starting a new job is tough, right? So we need to kind of work really, really hard to not be depressed, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you do that?
Definitely the mindset is extremely important. I actually, you don't know this because we're on a phone call, but I wear a bracelet for the last few months. It basically says, be positive. And on the other side says, no negativity allowed. And really every morning you have to wake up and have a fresh mindset and not let any obstacles or rejections throw you down, so that you can continue doing the things that no are going to work. You need a lot of hope and a lot of vision to move your idea forward and be able to make it through until it gets fulfilled. And there is no entrepreneur or no business in the world that hasn't had a fair dose or even an amount dose of bitterness. So they need to always be positive and be extremely resilient in order to transform those ideas into reality.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I talk to so many people at IBM and Microsoft and things like this, and a lot of the time they actually say that it's great to have someone who you can speak to, someone who, they might not be a mentor, they might not be a coach, but they might just be like an advocate of yours, for example, within the business, or even just a friend you can talk to. I mean, I think that really can help, you know?
Correct. Yes, and so it's different for entrepreneurs. Where if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an employee working in a company, you want to stand out. You typically, my experience has been to always find, like you said, not necessarily a mentor, but it's always having that person that has your back and that has your best interest in mind, and you can rely on them. And it's like your internal not colleague, but your internal partner that can help you propel forward inside an organization. When you're an entrepreneur, you definitely need that, because there's people that complain a lot about isolation, being alone, being working 7 days straight on the computer and not even seeing anybody's faces. But it's extremely important to always have an external connection, even if it's a family member, a friend, or hopefully a successful business person that can guide you and can at least check with you every month or every quarter and make sure that you're being accountable for your goals and your objectives.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, actually, in another one of these expert interviews, and he was saying how, it's really helpful to have someone who you can speak to, really, really helpful, but also to have a plan. I mean, like, it's all very well being resilient at work, right? But if you don't have a plan of where you want to get to before you've even started that new job or the new project, if you are the entrepreneur, whatever it is, but without having a goal that you want to achieve, you can be as resilient as you like, but you're not going the right direction, are you?
Correct. Yeah, that's like running very, very fast and very hard in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So definitely having a plan. And as we go along, I'll explain a little bit about how we create our startups and our projects. And the first part, or the first step in the 3-step process that we have, It's defining the vision and defining your solution that you're going to address a single objective. And so if you can put that in writing, and you can clarify, you can clearly state that, sort of like your elevator pitch, or sort of your motto for the next 3 years. You need to be very clear about it and be able to phrase it properly, so that you'll have a clear objective and be able to run in that direction and not lose sight of what's really important.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, you obviously work with a number of different businesses. Some of them are going to have funding. Some of them are going to be probably funded by larger enterprises, I would imagine, these days, because you've got the skills and the expertise to put in these new sort of ventures. I would call it a venture, but it's what do you actually do then within your enterprise?
Well, so let me tell you a little bit about our company. Basically, a few years ago, you have to imagine it's 2:00 in the morning. There are developers on the floor. They haven't slept for 2 days. There's no more caffeine that can keep us alive, and we're trying to push forward a software package because our clients are expecting it, or investors are demanding us to meet our deadlines, and there was just no way forward. And that's when it, I feel that's when I hit hard bottom. And a few days later, a friend of mine called me and he said, "Hey, we need to launch this new startup. Can you come over?" And we basically planned all these things, but we had to get started and we had to complete it in under 90 days. And of course, the way that we were doing software at that point, or startups software, was not going to cut it. We had to reinvent ourselves. And we came up with a process, a methodology that allowed us to create this amazing piece of software in under 90 days. And success happened. We were able to do it basically applying what we call now the startup technology framework. And it's a very easy process that any entrepreneur, even if it's a small venture or a large venture, can apply to their projects. And that is what we do at Vantage IO right now. Our goal is to help entrepreneurs and startups launch their ideas and turn them into reality. And that is our day-to-day. This is what we do every day. It's just helping take those ideas from small entrepreneurs all the way to enterprises and just turn them into reality as fast and as effective and efficient as possible.
Right. So really it's about just hitting, sometimes when you hit that rock bottom, it's a really key driver, isn't it? Like you'll be trying to do all these things and you'll work really hard and lots of hours. And so the moment you hit that sort of rock bottom, it's almost like everything changes and you're pushed to do something completely different and reinvent yourself and reinvent what you're doing, right?
Yes. And that's where resilience comes in a lot. Because it's just when you're at the bottom, where if you don't have that resilience and that objective, I mean, my objective has always been to create startups and grow startups. So if I didn't have that clear objective and I didn't have that resilience, I could just stay in the bottom. I could just keep on doing the same old things and doing the processes the way we were doing before. But it's that resilience and that determination that helps us go from those adversities and turn them into opportunities and transform them so that they can help you move forward and not push you down.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, it's how you achieve anything, isn't it? You just keep doing it and keep focusing on what you're trying to achieve. And no matter what, if you get Ubered in the way, I mean, that's what one of my other guests, he talks about being Ubered, and it does happen, right? But like it's just something that you need to just be aware of and not worry that you have to change direction. I mean, you might need to go around something or change your route slightly, but if you keep your end goal being a big hairy goal, right, you're going to get there, aren't you?
Exactly. And you just mentioned the big hairy goal, and that's something that we implemented about a year ago into everything that we do. And in our case, is to help raise $1 billion to the startups that we help create and launch. So that is our big hairy goal at this point by 2030. I must add.
Yeah, we should do that. You should do.
Yeah, we want to help raise $1 billion for the startups that we help create all the way from here until 2030.
Yeah, I think that's achievable. You got plenty of time there.
Yeah, there's 1 billion startup just 2 miles from here. So hopefully
Wow.
we can help more than just one, but it's definitely a big hairy goal for us and something that's really passionate that we're very passionate about.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to being resilient at work, yeah, do you think that it's important to like take breaks, like regular breaks, if you're on a computer all day or you're working really hard, like whether you're in a company or not, it doesn't matter. But like you can be resilient, but if you don't look after yourself, you're not gonna manage it, are you, to go the distance, right?
Yes. Now there needs to be a balance. People talk about the life business balance. I don't separate them. For me, I'm passionate and I'm obsessive about my business and the marketing and the projects that we do.
Yeah.
However, although my mind is always focused on that, there has to be. I can't work 4 hours straight. I'll have to complete a task. The way I like to do it, I think it's called the Pomodoro method, where I like to work for 45 minutes to an hour on a very, very focused on a given task.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop and do something. I'll just go get coffee, make a call, do something that's not part of my main task or my main goal for the day.
Yeah.
And then after 15 minutes, I'll come back and I'll spend another hour, 2 hours sometimes, depending on the time. There's morning people, there's afternoon people. Like if you sit me down at 9 p.m., I'll go straight until 2 in the morning.
Right.
So that for me works. Those are my productive hours. But definitely there needs to be a little bit of there needs to be breaks, and you have to. This is where, especially if you're an employee of a large company, when you get to the conference room or when you get to the coffee maker machine, people are nowadays just looking at their phones. They're not connecting. They're just waiting for the meeting to start, looking at their phones, but they're not creating relationships. And especially in large companies, you need to create those relationships. You need to create those partnerships. And those happen while you're waiting for the meeting to start. And those happen while you're, pouring yourself some coffee. And you have that small conversation and you realize that you have something in common with somebody that works with you, and you create those partnerships. You will not move forward in an organization. If you're the best that there is, you will still not move forward if the one who's above you or the one who can make that decision doesn't know you or doesn't like you. So it has to have both. So it all goes, and it comes back to your question as, should you take breaks? Well, yeah, you should look people in the eye at least once a day, say good morning, say goodbye, take some coffee and breathe, so that you can actually focus for the next 2 hours in something that's meaningful and important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's really important. Those things are so important. Having conversations with people. It's fundamental to being happy in business. Like I was talking to some people from Microsoft. I'm just going to literally release the episode in a few days, and they were basically, when people say to them, "I'm not here to make friends," like that's like a classic line, that people have.
Yes.
They just look at them and think, "Well, you're not going to be here for long." And that's generally the case, because you spend so much time at work these days, and if you don't have people to support you, then you can be as resilient as you like, but it's like trying to swim upstream in a really powerful river. You're not going to do it. You're really not going to go anywhere, and you will always fail if you try to just be different and not fit in. It's just it's the way.
And it goes back again to resiliency, because if you don't have any friends or anybody that you like at the place that you work or your own company, or you don't like your clients, you don't like your coworkers or your employers, you're not going to like going there. You're going to avoid waking up in the morning and driving there. For some people, it means waking up very early and driving 2 hours to work. It's really hard to be resilient if you don't have at least, you're going to have adversity, but you don't have to make adversity for yourself. You have to make friends. You have to like where you're going. You have to like your clients, and you like your projects. And yes, there's this is for all the millennials out there. Sometimes you're going to do stuff that you don't like to do, which is part of getting to your goal or getting to the goal of the team or the company that you work with. But ultimately, at least there needs to be a few positive, very positive things. One of them is definitely friendships and partnerships that you're going to make in those organizations that you're part of.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, the thing is, don't forget that like where you are now, if you're a millennial listening to this, or even if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, you know, where you are now, you might not like it, you might not enjoy it, but if you continue spending your time every evening watching rubbish on television, and then well, you're wasting your life away, because you could be studying and learning something new, and that will take you to do something that you really enjoy. I mean, I haven't always enjoyed work, you know, and sometimes I have bad days, but then that's life, right? And you get through it, and you move forwards. You have to move forwards, right? No matter how slowly.
Correct. If you don't move forward, you're basically moving backwards. You're not staying in the same place. Progress is definitely the key to success and to happiness in everything that you do. There needs to be, even if it's small, tiny progress amounts, but it always needs to be moving forward.
Yeah. So I know you know a lot about digital transformation with your background, and I'm very interested in Internet of Things, because it's just something I'm hugely interested in, especially, as far as like enterprise resource planning software, in terms of supply chain, etc. Right? But so I'd love to talk to you about digital transformation.
Sure. So just to give you your listeners a little more background, the last maybe 15 to 17 years I spent in fairly amount of healthcare IT development, and we basically were developing software for managing the healthcare of patients in small clinics and small physicians' offices. And one day we got a call from Royal Caribbean, one of the cruise lines, one of the largest cruise lines in the world. And they needed to basically improve the way they were handling healthcare on board. So people that don't know, you always think about beaches and drinks, but on board a cruise ship, there are anywhere from 700 to 2,000 crew members. These are employees that live there for 8, 10, or 12 months at a time. And they have healthcare issues, and they also have wellness programs and all these things. And Royal Caribbean tried to approach large companies to get them to put the software in. They reached out to Microsoft, GE, Cerner, a lot of large players in the healthcare industry, in healthcare software, and they just couldn't make it. And we had the technology, we had the team and the capabilities to go in and develop something for them. So we developed from the ground up brand new software that was dedicated to managing healthcare on board. And this fundamentally transformed how cruise ships in the world right now use and manage healthcare. By 3 years after we launched the first ship in Royal Caribbean, all of the major cruise lines in the world were using this software, this piece of software that we did. Even the U.S. Coast Guard, they have a program where every cruise ship, when it comes to port, they need to transmit information, and they were not enforced, but they were strongly suggesting that they had to use our software because it was everything that they needed and compliant and secure the way they wanted it. So all of this basically created a gigantic transformation for people on board and off board. You get everything from the waiter at a cruise line all the way to the director of medical operations at Carnival Corporation, changing the way they handle healthcare, and this is extremely important for them. So everything from how they documented the cases, the x-rays, their blood tests, everything changed. They were doing it on paper, and now they all of a sudden they had to do it with an iPad in front of them and computer and sending everything through email. And this was a dramatic transformation for them, and it changed the life of everybody on board. So it definitely affected way more than we initially thought it would, in a very positive way, of course.
Really? So what sort of comments were you getting then, Samuel, from the happy team members?
Well, definite for them to start off, they were when a waiter goes from one ship, when one cruise ship to another, they had to carry a bunch of papers under their arm. They have to go from one place to another.
I
So
can just
initially,
imagine.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they had to carry their blood tests and they had to carry all these X-rays and everything
Right.
because the next cruise doctor needed to know who they are and what illnesses do they have and everything
Right.
else. So from that point onward, everything was just digital, and so they could just access their records from any ship, and it would just get transferred. We had to file a patent for this. We implemented something called multi-master master replication through disconnected satellites, because you have the ships going through, through all parts of the world where you don't even get internet. I used to have better internet in 1997 than they do in some of the ships today.
Oh yeah,
And
I know what it's like having. It's
yeah,
awful. Like catching a ferry from here with like,
oh yeah.
to Spain. Like it's just rubbish, isn't it? Completely. So
Yeah.
you had to use satellite instead of internet, right?
Well, so it's internet over satellite, but the bandwidth, it's just horrible. Some of the biggest ships, 3 or 4 years ago, the biggest ship had 4 megabit bandwidth for the entire ship. So you have to imagine that, and they prioritize it everywhere from voice communications, and it goes down all the way to internet, and then down below is medical internet. So if somebody was making a interesting call and telling family members how they spend their day in the beach, we had to wait for that call to finish to send or X-rays through satellite. So it's very problematic. Yeah. So, and that's part of the digital transformation. We had to talk to these IT people in different parts of the world, different companies. We're talking everything from Germany, Malaysia, the UK, where Carnival Corporation has the headquarters, and we had to convince these IT people to give us space on their ship for the servers. We had to convince them to give us a little more bandwidth. We had to do all these transformations and have them shift from everybody's going to fax their documents or send them through by paper, and now everything's going to be digital. They're going to lose the paper touch and the paper trail, and everything's going to be digitalized, and it's going to give more visibility, which is a good thing for some people and it's a bad thing for some others, right? Because it also exposes inefficiencies and errors, but at the same time it also makes everybody more accountable and more productive. So it's a very interesting experiment what we did there, and the whole ecosystem, how it changed, and we were able to see it and witness it firsthand on how everything happened.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time right now. Like,
yeah,
to just watch what's going on out there in the world it's absolutely life-changing for many people.
Yes.
It really is. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. So let me just think if we can expand on this. So what are the most interesting kind of developments, do you think, with Internet of Things in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I like to split Internet of Things into two main realms. One is just the devices that we see everywhere, and the second part is the wearables, everything that has to do with your body and or your pet's bodies, or whatever it is that it's connected to your body. Most recently, we've been involved in developing a software for a company that's creating a wearable device that it's applied by your physician, and it's applied behind your ear, and they give you an application for your phone where you can administer doses of this treatment. Basically, it sends some electrical signals right behind your ear, and if the studies are correct, it can help with blood pressure, it can help with substance abuse, mental health. It's a very life-changing technology that when it goes out, I can't disclose the name right now, but once it goes out, it's going to change the life of everybody. But you can imagine that, back in the day, you wouldn't imagine that you're going to be pushing a button in your phone to give your brain electrical signals. I mean, you can't even go 5 years back and think about something this life-changing. And so all these things that are happening are just amazing. The other day, I was talking to a guy that works in shipping and logistics, and he was telling me how they go nowadays to warehouses. And we're not talking about the Amazons of the world. We're talking about just regular small warehouses where the forklifts are automated. There's nobody in the warehouse anymore.
Yeah.
They just go, they scan a paper, and the forklift, sends them a message, and the boxes and the pallets start coming out. And there's nobody to talk to. The pallets start piling up, and then you have to put them in your truck. But it's all of this Internet of Things that are just changing our world, and people don't realize it. Mostly everything new today is connected to the internet. It has some sort of sensor. It has some sort of intelligence, even if it's small or if there's curtain openers that you push a button and your curtains open, your blinds in your windows open. That's Internet of Things, and that has intelligence, and it's connected to your Wi-Fi, and it knows about you. And the more that you connect all these devices, the more they will know about you. This is scary for some people, but it's also very exciting for some others, because if used properly, it's going to change, it's already changing our lives, but it's going to change it even in ways that we can't really imagine at this point.
I've got a good one for you, Samuel. You're going to like this. So let's just say you set up your home, so that you've got a detector for when your mother-in-law arrives. So 100 meters away, your mother-in-law arrives, and then you fully automated, the lights go off and the curtains shut.
That's a good one.
My buddy was talking to me about that, but I just think
we can have a prototype built for you in the next few days.
I know. I bet you can. Yeah. These things, it amazes me how cheap they are to manufacture as well. I mean, I'm talking to some guys about machine chips quite recently, and sensors and this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, it's so cheap that it's almost like there's going to be, I was watching a video about this sort of ubiquitous box that can be used for anything. So it's kind of like you literally have this box, and you just plug the box straight into like your computer or your phone, and you decide what you want it to do. And then you just plug in the sensors to it, right? It's just, the world is going to change so dramatically. If you think that the iWatch 4 has got an ECG machine on it, like an ECG machine on a watch.
No, it's. I'm going to tell you another funny one. While we were on the ships, while we were on board, and some of the requirements by the doctors were, well, not the requirements, but they told us a story, and every story basically, or mostly every story, turned into a requirement and into a feature in the system. And they were telling us a story about a waiter and a bartender, and they were a couple, and they got pregnant, and they were going to have, they had to deliver the baby on board, but they were outside of, I think they were outside of Bahamas territorial waters. And so they didn't know exactly if the baby belonged to the father's country or the mother's country or to Bahamas, because it depends on where you were born. So they wanted us to put, literally, this is the request. They told us if we could put a baby locator button, so that when a baby was born, we could just push the button and we would know immediately and exactly which location the ship was on when the baby was born into the world.
Oh, wow. That's really important. The tax implications and like, if you get divorced in the wrong country, right, you could be in big trouble if that child is like from the wrong place. It could be seriously bad, right?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Really interesting. So with digital transformation, how, I mean, I'm in the process, I'm learning about ERP systems like enterprise resource planning.
Sure.
So how does digital transformation fit into ERP, or the other way around? Like how would you go about it if you were to integrate?
Sure. So one of the first tips of advice when it has to do with those large type of transformations, when you're going to replace the ERP for a company, even if it's a medium-sized company, you're going to impact the lives of a lot of people. And again, this is people that spend 8 to 10 hours a day doing this for the last 5 to 10 years, doing it one way. So the first thing is to realize if you actually need to make that change, because sometimes it's just a flashy sales presentation and a lot of noise or buzz on the internet about this new CRM or this new ERP software that does something amazing. But the reality is that that something amazing only works if all your history and all your stuff is well kept and well done. And odds are 99% of the time it's not. Just to give you an example, there was a company that was implementing a CRM that had some business intelligence, some artificial intelligence built into it, and it could detect which was the best deal or the best prospect to call. So, all the flashy things that we hear about that artificial intelligence can do. And this company was about to switch. Well, actually, they switched in the last few weeks. They switched to this new platform because they were promised this. The problem is that there's a step called data sanitation. And if your data is not clean and organized in a way that this new software can process, it's not going to work. It's just going to be a different screen. It's going to be a different process, but it's going to do exactly the same or very similar to what you were used to be doing before. So the very first thing is to just understand, do we really need this? And are we really prepared to make this change? Because if not, you're going to switch the system and then wait 3 years to sanitize your data. You might as well just stay in your old system and begin that sanitation now, save that money for 3 years down the road when better and more improved software comes out. So the other thing that I like to ask management before even considering changing a software piece, and this goes even to your small to the small entrepreneurs, and we do this very often. I analyze tools every week because I like looking at tools for everything from marketing automation to code review to UI design, everything that's new. I like to use it for a little bit and see if it's going to work for us.
Yeah.
But in reality, I only use 4 or 5 tools, and it's really hard for any other tool to come and take the place of, I use Trello for everything. So it's not as much as ERP, right? It's just for task management software. It works. I don't need a fancy AI or fancy system to track our tasks. Trello does that for us. I'm not affiliated or anything with Trello, but we like that software a lot. And every week I look at other softwares that try to replicate, emulate, or improve on what Trello does. And yet some of them are cool and interesting, but for me to change the way that my project managers work and my developers work, just because an extra feature, it's not worth it. And if it's not worth for me with 10 or 15 people, it's definitely not worth negatively impacting the life of 100, 200, or 1,000 people when you implement a new ERP or a new CRM.
Right. Yeah, it's a very difficult call, isn't it? Because you've also got that culture change play with everything, which is that's kind of like one of the biggest issues, isn't it? With putting in a new. I mean, let's just say you're going in and you're putting an ERP in, right? And you're totally transforming that business from all sorts of different data stacks in all sorts of different departments, and you're putting in a full ERP system, right, to systemize every process in that business, and the CFO wants to make sure you streamline everything so you can keep up with your competition and everything else. But like, if the enterprise has a load of people and they're not behind it, you're in big trouble, because it's going to have, people are going to leave, and we're going to have all sorts of problems there.
Exactly. So one of the things, going back to my days with the cruise industry, one of the factors for success, again, it was that partnership or that relationship that we had with what we call the champion, the corporate champion of the product. So we had, of course, internally we had the leaders, the architects, the salespeople, and everything else. But in each of the large cruise lines, we had somebody that was or ally inside that was pushing forward for us, that was helping us, and it was giving us that information that we needed to convince other players. So if accounting needed something very specific, we were able to talk to them listen to them so that we could get their buy-in. And then when we went to the nurse director, we knew exactly what they needed. So it was having that partnership inside, having that partner inside that could help us. And it's, again, go back to that relationship building, right? Where if you don't get that buy-in from all the departments and all the people that you're going to impact, it's going to be really hard. You're not going to be able to push a grassroots movement in a large corporation like this. You need to get the buy-in from the influential people, and you need to know what makes everybody tick and convince them in a certain way. And it goes the same for everything. Even if you're doing, even if you're selling widgets and you're selling door-to-door widgets, if you have some sort of relationship and you have some buy-in from inside that household or inside that small company that's looking for your widget, you're going to be more successful in selling them and servicing them, because otherwise you're just talking to strangers and might as well just put a classified ad and sell your stuff. You want to bring that value that you can actually improve their lives and improve everything that they're doing day in and day out.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? When you look and you see how many companies are not around these days that were huge players. Like if you look at let's look at Blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, I believe they had the CEO at the time actually launched something which could have actually saved the business, but the management team stopped him.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. The reality is that they could have been Netflix today. I don't know this. I don't know that story in particular, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had somebody, even the CEO or somebody down below, had maybe that initiative of saying, "Hey, let's switch to streaming before, or let's do something else to catch up, with the times." Because before Netflix, everything was just going to the store and getting your DVD in your hand or your VHS.
Yeah.
And they had to. A lot of people probably saw it. They saw it coming. Netflix did, and at Xfinity, Comcast, the cable provider, saw it. They have been very successful at it, and not a lot of people probably outside of the US knows this, but Xfinity, the cable company, have been investing massively into streaming, and they had all this. It's been a 5 to 7 year project for Xfinity to transform into a digital streaming company. So there's all these people that saw this. Some of them took action. And if these people at Blockbuster didn't get the buy-in, they couldn't convince enough people. And we're going back to resiliency and relationships. If somebody had enough clout and enough power to convince them and transfer that vision into everybody in the team, and convincing them that the way that we're doing business for the last 30 years was not going to work in 2010, or I don't know when they closed the door, 2008, they probably would have made a change, and they probably would still be around, and we would have another option besides Netflix.
Yeah.
And hope, right?
Yeah. But then that goes back to the culture of the business. It goes back to the management being coherent and being able to fit with the other people within the business, right? And there's no difference with Internet of Things. Yeah. If you're installing an ERP system, right, and you've got your ERP, let's say you've already got your ERP system and you're all kitted out. Yeah. Each department within that business, depending on what sort of business it is, because all businesses are different, right? They're all going to have opportunity to have Internet of Things and sensors with, fully traceable product, if it's a physical product, et cetera, right? So each department is going to be able to plug into something far greater than what it's at now, right? But the thing is, without a culture of improvement, daily improvement, innovation, they're not going to be able to improve that business fast, right?
Yes. Now, and I go back to the point where, first of all, it needs to make sense it always makes sense to improve. The question is if that new shiny object is going to really improve, or is going to be more of a flashy new thing. And so I'm all for improvement, but I do like iterative improvement. So I do like to, okay, we're going to change something. Let's just make sure that we change a little piece and a little piece to start. And then once we're in and we have proven that this actually improves the lives of accounting department, then sales is going to want it. And then marketing is going to want it too. And management is going to want it as well. So it goes back again to also how we do with this, with our company. We like to focus a lot on MVPs, minimal viable products.
Yeah.
When people come up with us with great ideas, it's not like we shut them down, but we like to transform their idea from a bulldozer into a little sniper that can go behind enemy lines, convince people, change their lives, and then from the inside transform everything else. So you can't just say we're going to put a new ERP, everybody shut down their computer, reboot, and you have a new ERP, because it's going to create chaos, especially if you're a large organization. But if you can convince a small group of people to improve a little bit, if you say we're going to start cleaning our data for the next 3 months, and then we're going to put this little component that's going to make your life easier, and you show them, 6 months down the line, you show everybody else how they're having more productivity, how they're achieving their goals better, then people are gonna chase you to be next, instead of you having to choose volunteers of who wants to alter their workflow dramatically. And it helps a lot to have those abilities to change with small increments, instead of having to transform everything all at once.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you as a chief finance officer, what would you actually go through the whole business in your mind and say, well, these are the areas that we could improve on the bottom line the most, and you would start there? Or how would you, if you were the CEO and the CFO was sitting next to you, how would you decide on which parts of the business to focus on first?
Well, the one that would benefit the most with the least amount of change. So if we have a large company, we're 100 salespeople, but we have a small marketing team. Well, let's go and change something for the marketing team so that they can provide more leads to the salespeople. And if we can prove that this whole new automated system works for marketing, I'm sure, and we have that 5 guys marketing team. If it works for them, then I can go to the 100 salespeople and have them change. I won't be able to do it day one, but definitely 3 or 6 months down the line, when I can prove that I can go and tell them, you got more leads in the last few months. Guess what? It was because of this. Now it's your turn to change. So the word that there's the least amount of resistance and the most benefit, sort of like the lowest hanging fruit. If you're in a large warehouse, then what is your biggest problem? Is it the receiving? Is it shipping? Where is it that you're having those problems the most, and where is it going to impact the least? Because you want to make this change without disturbing too many people. And once it's in, it's like you're behind enemy lines spy. Once he's in, he can convince everybody. Once you change a little piece of the business and it works, and people can see how it worked and the process went through, then they'll be chasing you to change them, and not the other way around.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Internet of Things is also very risky, though, isn't it? From a security standpoint.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of there's been a lot of talks from all the large manufacturers on how to standardize that and how to make everything secure, because we're discussing there's all these cheap devices. You can buy anything from Amazon under $30-$40, and you can create an IoT device very quickly if you have the skills. Within a couple hours, you could have a motion detection camera on your front door. But if you just spend a few hours on that, probably you didn't implement enough security. Anybody could just go and start snooping and looking through your camera, because everything gets connected. So there's a lot of concerns, but there's common sense. So back in the day, everybody just had their computers open, no firewalls, no passwords. And, there were some savvy users, and they knew that this was going to happen. It it wasn't being enforced back then, and you just had to do it on your own. I think it's the same for IoT devices. We had some baby monitoring cameras a few years ago that we bought for kids, and the cameras basically came with the default password. There was no easy way to change it. So guess what? They had the default password until we saw the news articles that people were hacking into those and scaring kids. So quickly enough, we went and changed all the passwords, put firewalls in. Nowadays, everything comes with that security built in. It doesn't come with a default password. It forces you to set up a new password as soon as you install it. So manufacturers are learning this. Consumers are getting more and more educated. So now you talk to most consumers, and they'll know what a VPN is. They'll know what a firewall is. And so with IoT, it's a given. It's like, well, it probably has some sort of security already. And so if it's not, then these manufacturers are moving forward, and I hope they'll do this more and more, because there's always that 20% of the population that's not going to care or not going to know about this, and they'll just put in their camera and they won't know that they need to make these changes.
Yeah, but that goes for all of it. I mean, if you put a new router in, anything at home is so risky. Like it's to the point of actually the awareness. People just don't know. Like they really don't know. I speak to a lot of security experts, and they've got no idea, most people. And certainly in England, because it's like, oh, I'm not a techie is kind of how people look at it. And it's like, well, actually, do you want people getting into your machine and having a look around? It's kind of where we're at. Have you got a virus protection? Oh, no, I haven't got one. It's like, well, why haven't you got virus protection? When you go click that link, you're going to ruin your whole machine. Yeah. Yeah. And it is a worry, I think, for some people, but so that's really interesting conversation. So what are your favorite Internet of Things devices that you like the most?
Well, definitely, I'm a fan of the Nest camera. It's one of the best devices. I mean, if you look at my kid's bedroom, it looks like a movie studio. For some reason, my wife wanted to get like 8 or 10 different cameras, and we have like every single angle covered. every camera was different manufacturers. And then one broke, and we got another one. But really, the one that stands out is the Nest, because again, I'm not affiliated with Nest or Google or anything like that. But you plug in the camera, and it's a small wizard guides you through setting it up. Just with a barcode scan, and in a couple of minutes you're up and running. And even the interface of how you scroll up and down the video timeline, it's amazing. It's so amazing that we actually implemented that similar timeline for an audio application that we're creating for the law and legal reporting industry. So because they need to record audio and be able to scroll fast back and forth. So we emulated the same system. It's amazing. It's just out of this world, and how easy they made it. Other than that, I haven't installed many consumer products for myself. Believe it or not, I just have my Alexa and the Nest cameras, and that's it. But on the other front, there's all this massive amount of IoT devices, and everything's so interesting. We found the other day one that detects pollution. There's one that can detect if your grass needs irrigation. There's all this interesting, especially in agriculture. For some reason, it's taking off so dramatically, and it improves the lives of so many people, because they don't have to like go and take the samples every week. Now they just go into a console, push a button, and they get all the readings that they needed for a lot of acres of land. So all those are extremely interesting to me, especially the ones in agriculture. Healthcare, definitely, it's one of my favorite ones. But those are, due to the regulation, slow process and everything else, it's still going to be a way a little bit until we get a lot of those newer products coming out. But those are extremely interesting, especially the ones that are not invasive, that don't require that much regulation, are starting to come out. There's continuous reading for glucose, where you just put the device and you scan it with your phone every time that you need it, and it's continuously reading glucose without pinching. It's amazing. Everything that that we're going to see in
Wow.
the next few years is going to blow our minds away.
Wow. So for diabetics, that's huge, right?
Yeah. Imagine, back in the day, well, even today, a lot of people just have to, use needles, pinch their fingers once a day or twice a day. Now they just go with their phone, scan their arm, and they have a little wearable on their arm, and it tells them continuously reading of glucose. It's amazing.
Wow. That's revolution. That's revolutionary completely.
Or the application that we make. I mean, just think about the implications of you going to, first of all, it's something that or in the US, of course, everything has to be coded so that it will be built and the insurance will pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
This treatment that we're talking about, it's coded already. It's going to be paid by insurances and paid by Medicare. So you can go to your doctor. They'll say you have a mental condition or substance abuse, and instead of just sending you with some pills or sending you to somewhere else, they're gonna put a little device behind your ear that's not even noticeable and download an app on your phone. And so every 2 hours you'll push the button, give yourself the electrical stimulation, and it's going to help you take that anxiety away and take that substance abuse and lower it. So it's incredible. Just think about 5 years ago or 10 years ago, people wouldn't even think about anything like this going on at the rate that we're seeing it today.
Wow. So that is going to regulate the person's brain and the happiness levels, right?
Well, yeah, I can't disclose so much of the details, but basically it measures an imbalance with your the frequency of the heartbeats and the electricity that your body generates,
mm-hmm.
and it helps you stabilize that. And they have studies where they demonstrate how it lowers blood pressure, it lowers stress levels, and it also helps with substance abuse conditions. And they have the studies. They have demonstrated that technology or that stimulation works, and they're putting it into a product that's going to be a consumer-facing product. You just go to your doctor, and he'll be able to set it up for you. Just because there's very precise points where it needs to be applied, but there's some other technologies where it's not that precise. Where you're going to go to your nearest pharmacy, buy this wristband, and it's going to tell you information, or it's going to provide with certain therapies that will help you with your conditions or to help improve your body. It's just amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. So I can't. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, I think the challenge is getting people to adopt these things fast enough so that they actually grow. I mean, do you think we're at the right time now to adopt these new technologies?
Absolutely, yeah. So everything. There's going to be two groups of people. There's a group of people that get scared or that are against that transformation, and depending on where you are in life, you'll feel one way or another. Or parents where would never think about calling somebody or texting somebody to wish them a happy birthday, and this is what we do today. Even when people would completely be against even sending a letter, they would have to go in person and see face to face. Nowadays, it's like everything's it's through the online camera and your FaceTime and everything else. So there's all this transformation that it's happening. There's going to be a generational change. There's going to be a cultural change. But definitely, if you get past the scaring phase and get past the cultural, you'll realize how this improves your life. Now, again, with some balance. I said the scenario where you're in the business in a conference room, just waiting for the conference to start, and you look around and everybody's just you glued to their phone. They're checking Instagram, they're checking the news, and they're not building relationships. They're not looking at each other and saying, "Hey, what did you do last night? What are you doing this weekend?" Yeah. And so they're not. You have to be careful not to lose touch of. There's a commercial that says like I think it was a commercial, a documentary where they created the internet to connect people, not to connect devices, not to leave people in a basement just binge watching Netflix for 3 days straight, or doing everything online. They created all this technology was to connect people. This podcast, this opportunity to express our ideas, meet people, connect with them, and then refeed our own ideas and come up with new ones. And that's very important. Not to lose sight of the humanity behind all this revolution that it's in front of us.
Yeah. I'm completely blown away, by this. I mean, I'm like in my 40s, right? I'm just like my early 40s, and growing up with, we had 3 channels when I grew up on the television, right? And I remember mobile phones coming in, and and it's like, it's just a bizarre state of affairs when you look at how fast things are moving. But I think we need to be very aware of the security issues with certainly some of the chips that are being manufactured in certain countries. We can't really talk about that on this in too much detail, because I don't want to get involved with that. But we're at a place right now where the people that know what they're doing can monitor you quite easily. So it's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? You either embrace it and go all in, or you're kind of a bit more cautious. And I think a lot of people are very cautious in how they're approaching things. Certainly my dad's age, I mean, he's 85, he's embracing his iPhone 8, and learning how to use an iPhone 8 at the age of 85 is an interesting experience for him. Because it's blowing his mind, because the capabilities of these devices are just huge, aren't they, really? So it's certainly an interesting time, but I think it's going to transform a lot of medicine as well, isn't it? Like you were saying, with health monitoring, personalized drugs. There are just so many innovations coming along that
we haven't even touched about, as you said, personalized drugs and personalized treatments. But I think that especially for healthcare, the key of the foundation of the scientific process, which is observation, and that's how every medicine and therapy it's created, at least in the US, where it has to go through this very strict FDA process and lengthy process. It's based on observation. And so the biggest problem we've always had is, okay, so you need to do the observations. You need those metrics to be able to know if something worked or not. And so nowadays, imagine if you can just connect yourself and be able to get all your readings, which we are already doing on the iPhone and I'm sure on Android too, where you get all these readings and you can get many more. You can get now your glucose levels and blood pressure and all these things that you can measure down to the millisecond. And so you combine those observations with medical experiments and all these processes that they need to take place to approve a drug, and it will have to speed up. There's no way that it stays the same speed that it's been for the last 50 or 100 years, where the FDA takes 5 to 10 years until all the medical the whole approval process goes by. It will have to accelerate, and I know they're in the talks to change this. The last director of the FDA was a little bit against it, but it's just going to happen. It's going to happen where this accelerates everything, taking care of safety. Of course, you don't want to just put a medication out there that's going to hurt somebody, but definitely with safety in mind, it's going to accelerate that tremendously.
Yeah, well, it's going to transform so many people's lives in all areas, isn't it? Internet of Things and digital transformations, just massive. So look, I'm going to leave you to it. It's been a real joy. So how do people find you to learn more about what you're up to, Samuel? Sure.
Yeah. So we prepare a special offer for the listeners of your podcast. If your visitors go to vantageio.com/build-business-acumen, that's vantageio.com/build-business-acumen. You're going to see there's going to be a little form. And for all your entrepreneurs, regardless if you're in the very early stage, late stage, or in your growth stage, we have something for you. It's a free 30-minute consultation where we go through the startup technology framework assessment. We help clarify your problem. We help define how your solution will look like. your technology assessment, and your roadmap planning. So by the end of that call, you're going to have all these documents and all these answers for you. It's a completely free service that we're offering to your listeners. So you can go there. You can visit us at vantageo.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Morhaim, which is my first letter, my last name, Morhaim. And we'd love to talk to all of you and hear everything you guys have to say and hear the feedback from this podcast. But also, it's just been an honor being here and sharing all these experiences with you.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe, and wherever you prefer, share with your friends. And if you enjoyed the show, drop us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen.